we figured that if the first title didn't appeal to us, then we can always change the name. So that's what we're doing, is we're remotely interesting. The whole point of this session is basically to do a Q&A session between me and Sandy around remote work, design sprints, remote facilitation, tools, and everything else. You can even include some rumors that you've heard about remote sprinting, or some sessions that you've been part of that you want to share some knowledge. This is kind of an open webinar, so it's not just two talking heads talking back at you. I think the fact that I just put a poop emoji guy on LinkedIn, which probably communicate to you that, yeah, we're just having fun with this. So we'd like to invite the people that came on to kind of see what this is all about. So one of the people that are in the chat right now, are on one of the people that are paying attention and are part of our experience today is Lisa Weinsberger. She is from Vienna, Austria. She's a design sprint and innovation facilitator and an experienced designer. She's basically part of Design Tribe. She's been doing that for about 3 years. Very knowledgeable, very active in the in-person event space, and is involved with the Global Virtual Design Sprint, is looking to get involved with education. So there's that. There's this guy, and how would you pronounce his name? Do you say, do you want to, Sandy, do you want to take a crack at what this person's name is? He's part of Frank and the Navigator. He's also heads up Talents for You. He's from Eindhoven, Netherlands. He's one of the co-founders of Virtual Design Sprint Europe. Who does that remind you of?
That's hard guess.
He articulates very well. He's also the originator of the GVDS on air resource. So I'm wondering who that is.
Hey, on the panel, on the chat, it says it's Tom. So my guess is Tom.
All right, let's call him Tom. There you go. All right, so I'm glad Tom's here. Let's see, then there's Daniel Hera. Now, here's the thing about Dan, because I've seen his name spelled different ways over the years that I've known him, which is one. But basically, on LinkedIn, Daniel Herrera, and then there's Duncan. So I'm wondering if that last name is if it's Herrera or Duncan, but basically he's from Mexico City in the metropolitan area. He's a product design engineer, innovation strategist. He's also a certified AJ Smart Design Sprint Masterclass recipient. He's doing right now, he's in D Studio, which is a product design engineer. So he's somebody that we know from the Global Virtual Design Sprint as well. So a lot of people that would come from Slack are coming around. So without doing more introductions, let's kind of get into the Q&A bit of this and why we're here. So we just came from a kind of a panel, a 5-person panel on that Miro had kind of hosted around remote design sprints, remote facilitation, best practices for facilitation. And we did some heavy promotion for it. And I think there was over 300 people with a wait list. And we're thinking about doing another one in 2 weeks. But the one thing that came that was clear is that there was so much Q&A there that I had to kind of twist the arm of the host to say, like, let's stay for 15 minutes and see how many of these we can get through, which is the real value of what most people are looking for. They want their questions answered, especially what they're interested in. Now, by kind of doing this and having me and Sandy usually meet regularly on Thursdays to kind of do like a recording, and we've been thinking about just doing it streaming so that we don't have to do any post-production given the amount of work that we're currently doing and will do in the future, that we could do the same thing, at least in the short term, and do a little bit of Q&A. So if someone poses a question that's attending as a attendee, and we can provide some value, we'll do so. If there's somebody else on the call that we notice that is probably more versed in what the question could answer, then if you're watching right now, you could raise your hand, you could signal in chat that you would like to contribute something, and we can basically activate your mic and you can contribute to the question as well. But that's only if you feel comfortable doing so. So in the absence of questions, I do have some that are kind of preloaded from our previous session. But that's, I think, is, Sandy, you can correct me, but I think that's kind of the format that we're going to follow, is that we'll pipe in our own Q&A until it starts seeding itself through the people that are attending. If there are people that have maybe domain knowledge in a particular question and would like to answer it, then we'll bring them into the conversation. And then, we'll keep rolling. So it's part community, part community driven, and also with both of us kind of giving our 2 cents. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, exactly. That's what we're
And
gonna do. Oh, there are questions already.
yeah, there's already people here. And by the way, if you're wondering, the pink poop emoji is the creation of Sandy Lamb. I think it's now become our mascot to a certain extent. So we're going to use it on many different things like wrestler heads and whatever we can kind of, find a use for it. So, let's start with this. For the people that are on there, were bothered to kind of come by and take a look at what we're doing. Do you have any particular questions that you'd like to start a conversation about with the two of us, and to see if we can help answer them? And this could be something also where if you hear the question, like I said, you can chime in and say, I'd like to contribute, but we'll give about a minute for that. I will say that we also are streaming live on YouTube. So Sandy, every so often what I'll do is on my site, I'll take a look and see who's there. And Ian Thorne actually is traveling, but he's looking at us as well. So I'm gonna say, hi Ian, hope you are well. And wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
That's gonna be probably the tagline is for this. It's just like wash your hands. That's all I'm gonna be saying to my kid all the time. Just wash your hands.
I just spent €30 today to buy hand sanitizers.
Yes, yeah, that's some more. People are going to be making their own home hand sanitizers. They'll be like homeopathy hand homeopathy. Homeopathy. You put no homeopathy. Homeopath. I'm going to give up now. So Jerome has asked, how do you react on statements that virtual collaboration is not real collaboration? You can try telling that to the number of companies right now that are in a panic getting online really, 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 really fast. They are going to be forced to figure out how to collaborate in a remote and virtual space. And if you're talking about true collaboration from the perspective of in-person, I think we're going to find out that it's like, Sandy, to your point that you said before, it is just one option. There are pros and cons to each particular avenue you take. If you do physical in-person facilitation, then you have a lot of the nuances of human interaction, the body language, the facial expressions, all those things that kind of make up how people communicate, gestures and so on. The con is that you have to be locked into a place physically where you have to gracefully exit to go to the bathroom, or wait until there's a break, or you may be trapped in a room with somebody you can't stand. Halitosis is something that's a real problem with in-person because some people just don't know how bad they smell. That's just how it is. Virtual is its own beast in that you can still collaborate. You don't have
now you make it sound like that's why we are working remotely.
Dude, sorry. All right, I'll say it. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily communicate that the reason why I went remote is because of smelly people, but that's probably one of 12 or 15 factors where you work in an environment where people just don't bathe in the morning and they go in and they go into an all-day workshop. They're smelling pretty ripe around like lunchtime, especially if they go out to lunch with their friends and come back, and just it's bad. I mean, as a facilitator, that's something we don't have in the recommended things to worry about, because they always say, make sure you're prepared and your tools work, and that you have all the snacks out. But it's like, really, you should have a can of Lysol, because you got to spray the air or spray in a certain direction if somebody just doesn't get their hygiene done in the morning.
We should tag Agent Smart and ask them to add it on their checklist.
I
invite people to.
No, we could just fill it in. It could be it could be almost an article in the making. The unsaid things that you need to watch out for when you're doing in-person facilitation, but it probably won't get much traffic because these days everyone is going remote. So to answer the original question, where people say, how do you answer where virtual facilitation is not true facilitation in terms of in-person? It depends on how you prefer to communicate. So if you prefer to communicate in human to human in person, then you're probably going to have that view. If you're someone that wants to collaborate and you don't care if you see them or not, but want to be able to exchange information to get everyone's point of view and work towards a common goal, then there's collaboration in that regard. But it really is it really depends on the person you're talking about. Sandy, what are your thoughts after that entire diatribe that I went through?
It's awesome, just perfect.
All right. Yeah, that'll work. Sure. Ian, since you're the only person there on YouTube, you might as well put in a question there so that I can say, and now we're going to switch to YouTube and see what people are saying there as a way of showcasing that we're on two different places.
I don't have the YouTube link, by the way.
Oh, you
so
don't?
You are the only person who is monitoring that side
Fine.
of things.
Yeah, yes. Ian just probably fat fingered it and got the wrong he just happened to get the link by chance. So hang on, let me put it in the chat if I can find the chat window. I am now at probably 60 tab capacity. Come on now, why are you not wanting to put stuff in there? Okay, there we go. So Jerron has another question. He says, organizations need to get used to new tools of facilitation to adopt remote workshops. I'm considering kind of a sandbox session before a real workshop. What would you recommend to include in such an online workshop preparation session? A lot of play. If you're doing a sandbox session where people are trying things out, I would make an analogy to the Perot Museum, which I was just at a couple days ago, where their mode of teaching both young and old about different things revolving physics and science is to have something interactive and something to play with. So if your sandbox includes activities where people by proxy of learning the tool get involved with the activity, then you kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, in that you'll be able to show how the tool works, but do it in such a way where it's you basically create like something in Mural with stickies that has to do with like a daily planner or something, some sort of activity that you have planned for your sandbox, but make it more about play. And I think you'll probably get better adoption and faster adoption that way. And also identifying really early who are the one or two individuals that are just struggling by default, no matter what you throw at them, and giving them the appropriate amount of attention. Because while they may struggle in session with what they're doing, they pay huge dividends in other areas where they're much more skilled and versatile, especially with in-person communication. If you're connecting with a client remotely, there's somebody that can really, they can use their strengths in different ways.
Hey, Robert, why don't you let them actually ask the questions? I think you can let them talk as an attendee, I think. So they can just.
Is it just, you mean for the person that asked the question, just basically have them respond to like the answer?
Yeah, like the next question is Daniel, like he put it on the chat. So maybe we just unmute him and then he can ask the questions directly.
Okay. Sure, we can experiment with it. Why don't we go back and forth? Like I'll take one and then you take one. So if you have Daniel's, I'll take Daniel off on mic and then he can go ahead and talk about what he's what his question was. So he's allowed to talk. We can't see him obviously because he's for some reason Zoom doesn't do that. But go ahead and like get into his question.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. So I have a couple of people in my mind that I've been recently. Well, they have a comment that they are concerned because they are pushed or forced to work remotely or at home. So because of their industry, they think that they will be like in an out of advantage of moving forward with their career, especially in industries like banking. So what would you recommend those people in order to keep their work or their career moving forward during this kind of times?
Sandy,
I don't see why for banking though. Like if it's something that requires physical work, then I can understand they can't do it remote, but banking is very much online and everything is technology there. So
yeah, probably in the sense of being present with the board or any other meetings or decisions that they need to make and because they are forced to be home, probably they lose force with their speech or something. I don't have the details exactly, but those are real concerns that these people have right now.
I think it would depend on the environment that they're working in and what kind of boss they report to. People can have different optics around a situation, and everyone to a certain extent is like disposable labor. But how valuable to you are to an organization isn't necessarily how well you get along with people in person. It's what you bring to the table. I think, I mean, I'm putting my manager hat on. I would tend to want to talk to them to find out what the underlying fears are. Just really not talk, but just shut up and understand what's kind of driving this. Is it just a fear of the unknown? Is it that you've heard of other people in the banking industry that are losing their jobs because they don't have the proper bandwidth? And what's driving the fear? And what can I reassure them about based on my own knowledge of what they should probably take with them that can give them more confidence, or that they can use as something to hang their hat on when it comes to their future state of employment. So I don't necessarily know if there's any way to assuage the notion that the market will find them less desirable, because this coronavirus is forcing everybody remote and everyone's going to be in the same space. So there really isn't an outlier with this stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can be a baseball player, a soccer player, somebody in the airline industry. All of them are going to be temporarily, hopefully temporarily, kind of disabled by the way this virus is hitting everything. But yeah, I think it really involves a personal conversation with the person or the persons that are really concerned about this.
Yeah, I think that yeah, you're right. I think it's probably most because it's new or different. They don't know how to behave themselves under these situations.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But I feel like human has they can adjust on situations really fast. They like all humans are so creative. When they cannot do something in a certain way, they will very quickly figure out another way of doing things, especially when they are forced to do it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yep, it's true. But any kind of guidance will definitely help.
Mhm.
Okay, Daniel, thanks for the call. No, thanks for the call. Going back.
Bye, Daniel.
thank you guys.
Okay, so next up is I want to say Duri. Duri, how do we check and see if people want to speak? Should there be something where when they pose the question, they're open to talking about it? Could there be like some side of kind of thing they can put into the questions, like they want to speak?
I think we just finished what we have on the panel list, like not the panel, the chat, and then because like you see, like Lisa is raising her hand, so we can use it like that.
Okay, so yeah, if they, let's say if you want to come on the mic and raise your hand, or if you want to come on the mic, raise your hand, then we'll know that you want to come on and speak. So hey, that was an easy way.
Yeah.
You always see, Sandy, you always have the simple answer to things. So yeah, let's go that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read what's in the chat, and then I'm going to bring the person that had said the question originally into the conversation. So I'm going to try to pronounce your name, Duri, and if I get it wrong, then do chastise me when you come on the mic. It's Duri Bargad, B-A-R-G-A-I-D. Her question is, I just did the AJ and Smart Design Sprint certificate, and I want to join the remote sprint team as a freelancer. Where can I find a team? So I'm going to bring you on, Duri. Go ahead and kind of explain your question a bit.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So, well, I did, I learned the design sprint, and I'm a product designer. I work with the digital products, and obviously, I haven't done many sprint. I did, like just some practice sprint. So obviously, I cannot go and sell it to companies. I don't have the confidence to sell it or manage the whole sprint. But I need to join team. But right now, people I'm working with, they don't do sprint. They're quite far from it. So actually, I need to find team, or I need to find a place where I can actually practice my skill, and join some team to basically do the sprint and get into sprint. So any suggestion or idea would be appreciated.
Join the GVDS.
Well, I didn't want to necessarily go down the straight promotion side, but yes.
That's why I did it for you.
Yeah, that's how Sandy did it, and she threw herself directly in it, and now is like well versed in the space. But so 2 suggestions. One is, yes, the global virtual design sprint was set up exactly for your situation, for someone that just came out of a certification, a situation where you invested the money to do that, and you want to put it to applied use to do design sprints. That was what the GVDS was all about, and it still is. And just that it's involved into this event where it's also for social good. It's to connect people internationally. It's to train people on virtual sprints if they're used to in-person ones. Mm-hmm. And it's my central focus for the next 2.5 months. So there's that, and there's a cost to it. Mm-hmm. But if you want a point of reference, then there are people on the call that have gone through this before, like Lisa, Jerome, Sandy, who's a 2-time MVP, meaning most valuable practitioner. Jerome Formau is also an MVP, meaning that they went above and beyond what would normally people would do if they were participating in this event, but it's peer-based. So people awarded them this honor, not me. I didn't do anything about that. I just basically tried to promote it. So there's that. So outside of the GVDS, if you want to do more practicing, what I always suggest is to do small incremental activities that are normally in the design sprint, and find a way of doing those with people you know, or offering out free online sessions to do something related to that. So a favorite of mine is just to do a lightning decision jam on a topic, where the LDJ is a proxy to the design sprint, but it's the same kind of set of design thinking activities that you can do. As long as you can find a way to practice something in the design sprint process at least once a month, that should give you at least some evidence to put in your portfolio on LinkedIn and other places to show that you're practicing this particular thing. You can, and if you want to do it more than once a month, you can do small mini sprints around either design or user research, or the other one is market research, or understanding a problem very well. It just depends on what you're really good at, Dory. What do you tend to gravitate towards? So if you're more on the program management side and you're more about organizing projects, then the first part of a design sprint is probably something that you could explore and practice related to interviewing subject matter experts, figuring out what the problem is, where the opportunity is, and doing problem framing and all of those things, but practicing it in a smaller fashion so that you have this evidence-based trail behind you of you practicing what you preach and what you understand, and being able to apply it to different situations.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just so, yeah, so valuable. Thank you. I have so much ideas now.
Okay, good. And do take advantage of social media while it's still hot, especially on LinkedIn. The organic growth is still there. If you want people to pay attention to this process that you found that you really like, do start the conversation online about that.
So yeah, actually my idea was to work in sustainable industry, work in fashion companies. I used to work as a fashion designer like 10 years ago. So now I'm going back to sustainable fashion, trying to make the industry more sustainable. So actually I see design sprint can fit there, but I didn't know how to, start this rolling. So probably I could do some small things within, like framing problem within the fashion industry, and then try to find solution or something like that. So
yeah, and here's a very important thing: don't try to convince people that this thing works. Don't be in the mindset that you have to try to win people over. Show by doing. Actually go through the motions, experiment, fail a lot, but you're going to be much better off having a first person experience of something that you're trying out. And then people will come to you if they see the appeal in and say, how do you go about doing this? So that the attention will shift from you trying to convince others to people coming to you to inquire about what you do. Take some time, but if you can continue to build 3 months, 6 months, like a kind of a history of your activity, it will really help that conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Great, thank you.
And I also want to say that like the GVDS is not just about like with the networking there, like all the people who are in the same space, who are having the same situation, there is a very high chance that you can also partner with someone there to form a proper team. So.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, thanks for your question, Yuri.
Thank you.
So,
Let's
next
see.
one. I think it's from MURAL.
I have an audio question only. No worries, it's a decent question.
What?
Jerome says I have an audio question only. So since it's your turn, Sandy, you can go ahead and talk to Jerome since I've already done the last one.
Sure.
So, Jerome, please.
How can I help you?
Good morning. Hi guys, great session. I enjoyed already, so compliments. I have a question. It's more I want to introduce more as a context. You see, in the current reality, larger organizations send their people home. The whole of the Netherlands actually now is homebound. All office workers are supposed to work from home to avoid spreading the virus. And many of these larger and also larger organizations, they have no real experience in what I call remote collaboration. Maybe remote communication, yes, putting the Skype on, link on, Zoom on, and talk to each other over coffee. But really continuing the business or a project is something else, as we all know. That's why we're here.
Yes.
And what I also notice is that the consultancy community, the consultant community, the freelance community, the design sprint community has a lot of independent professionals that are highly used to work like that already for years. And it's only getting better through events like the GVDS and more. But we struggle all offering our help to these larger corporates because the big IT companies, the big consultancies already have their people indoors from a technology point of view, from an infrastructure point of view, and they are first being asked to help them out. But I believe that the community that we all represent have an enormous advantage on having done this already for years. What is your thought on how to get a foot in the door in these organizations that now desperately need help to make sure that their business can continue with all their workers sitting at home, their suppliers not visiting, their clients maybe not engaging because they can't discuss innovation?
Okay.
I think doing what we are already doing is a way to help them in a sense, because a lot of them, they may not realize that they actually need help, or they don't realize they need the help that you were describing. Like you mentioned, like they only want to help from the tech side of things, but actually there's much more to it. So just creating a lot of content, posting it, educating, making it all open source, and then people will realize, okay, now actually remote collaboration is different than remote communication. So I think I'm a little bit lucky that way, because I was actually working in a company, corporation, and I'm actually right now using what I have learned with GVDS community, trying to help all my company that way. So I just host like a webinar, over 300 people joined, and just trying to educate them to or help them to understand that remote collaboration is more than just talking to or picking up the Skype without no camera on and all that, and then just talk with each other. So yeah.
So I have an idea, and this is born from a conversation I had with Alex about a half an hour ago. And this is something that I have to get past a lot of the GVDS stuff this weekend, but I'm thinking about experimenting with. So true, there is a lot of information coming up really fast, and people are doing webinars like this one and resource links, and everyone's going into this remote space to say like, okay, here's everything you need to know to get up to speed and so on. Back in February, there were tons of RFPs going out by banks and by healthcare professionals and other big enterprises to contract out some experts to come in and help people with understanding virtual and remote work. So there's been a lot of movement already. The idea is that using trust-based pricing, you offer up your time as an advisor to have someone contact you and schedule your time for an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it takes. And they can basically ask you any questions they want. They can ask for particular recommendations on resources and tools. And depending on how the session goes, if they find that your stuff was really valuable and did really well, then you basically get paid. If they can't pay the recommended fee that you normally have, then maybe they pay you a fee plus they give you a referral to somebody else they know. Or they do a service exchange of some type with you where they offer you something that's related to their business that you find valuable in the same right. So it's hedging risk as a provider of knowledge. But what you essentially do is you provide no risk to people that are wondering where to turn. It cuts through all of the information out there right now about remote facilitation, remote design sprints, and you're asking people to read all the information, consuming it. You're literally offering your time as a way of shortcutting all of that and saying, here's what I know based on my experience, because I've been doing this for such a long time in relative comparison to other people. I think if you have that platform available to people, it's not necessarily that you're going to reserve your time for the highest bidder, but you will know how the market sees you in terms of worth. You can also communicate what what the average goes for and what you're willing to work with in terms of like getting up to that price point and people can't afford it. And you're going to learn a lot more about the market and what people are asking for and change your messaging appropriately. So maybe for the first couple of weeks, it's if you're say Lisa, for example, and you went this route, people know you through your network that you do certain things. But if you offered up your time to go at specific things that a company is having problems with, then that's probably going to be highly valuable for them, and they could set the price around what they feel your time is worth that way. And you can also, go ahead.
But does it still work? Because I mean, does it still work if the person or the corporation doesn't realize that they need this kind of help? I think that's the gap there.
That's the thing, is that excuse me, some of them are already guessing outright. I mean, the RFPs that I got first were so broad and far ranging that it really looked like a huge kind of like, we need to cover an entire wide net because we don't know what's out there, or we don't know what we really want beyond these specific things that we need to change from being a physical in-person experience to a virtual one. And my idea is that you just go, okay, I'm an available resource. This is usually what I cost. And then you can basically schedule them in, and then they can choose what they want to pay. But the idea is that they aren't necessarily just going to pay nothing, because then it wouldn't be worth your time at all. But at the same time, you figure out what you should be billing yourself for if people would just want to know your flat rate and don't want to do trust-based pricing. So it's a definite chance, and it's just an idea I have, but I may experiment with it, because I'll tell you right now, I have, on average, since the middle of February when the thing first hit, just this week, I've had 7 inquiries to date about getting involved with a project, coming on a call, some sort of business interest related to my time and getting things done. But I'm kind of committed to the GVDS, so my time is hampered. And I try to steer conversations to people that I know that are doing this work, and they're completely booked out. So in the interest of doing something short and sweet and getting straight to brass tacks about what people want, this is one possible option.
Yeah, but I see that the gap is that a lot of them, they don't even realize what remote collaboration really means. Mm-hmm. That is the thing. So when they don't realize that, they wouldn't even think about to reach out to you, to who, and then it's not even the question about how to price them, or, you know, it's not that. Like, I feel like a lot of these corporations, if they understand they really need help to turn their remote communication to truly remote collaboration, then they are actually going to they are willing to pay for the consultancy or whatever. But the fact that I think a lot of them, they would just think like, okay, we have been doing remote collaboration for ages because we literally talk on Skype every day, and that is their remote collaboration. But most of them, they don't realize that it's actually much more than that.
True. And the concerns that are going to come about in the remote space are going to be fundamentally different from people that are leading a company versus people that are working in a company. They're not going to have the same needs. And so you'll have to figure out in that dimension where you play well and where you provide the most value.
Can I add something to that?
Go for it.
I recently posted an article that you also responded on, Robert, asking leadership in organizations to share with me what's on their mind. I got lots of feedback, but not in public. Of course, it's sensitive, they feel, because they are highly insecure what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They know that they know that they have the technology in-house, the infrastructure, but they see that, and that's what I wrote also in the chat, that remote collaboration is not about technology. It's also about technology, but in the end, it's a capability. And they see that people only in moments of despair and stress and these type of crises need to start working differently using the technology instead of just using the technology to communicate. And that leaves a lot of questions with leaders in the industry that have responded to me privately in direct messaging. But the resonance is, we know we have the tools, but we do not know whether the people are capable actually using the tools to collaborate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a culture thing, like actually it's a mindset thing. When I just think about, like, if you have a team located here or a team located in another location, the most people, their first reaction will be, let's just ask the person sitting beside me instead of picking up the call, the phone, and try to ask someone across the world. But I think if we can build a culture, like a really, like a remote collaboration culture, thinking that, okay, it actually has no difference for me to ask the person beside me or the person across the world. I can easily just pick up the call. It's as easy as just I ask the person beside you. Like this kind of mindset, I think a lot of companies, they don't really have yet. It takes time to build. It's a totally like a remote culture thing, that just like building any kind of working culture, any kind of, you know, company culture stuff, it takes a lot of time, I feel like.
I agree. So thank you, Jerome, for the question. Obviously,
For the,
Cool.
yeah. I do want to, because we have about 10 minutes left, so we have a couple more people we want to get to for sure. Ian from YouTube asked, what do you think are the biggest challenges to ensure remote work will be broadly integrated in the near future? I can cliff note it by saying access to technology, having a decent enough network connection, and understanding the foundational tools you need to use to do the work. Sometime, and we were just in a session where Anna was saying, you know, 90% of the time people are going to fall back on the tools that they need, or that they already use to do the work, which is fine. But I think if you can encourage people to experiment with different tools, it really helps drive forward the notion that in the remote environment, some tools are better than others to get the kind of work you want to get done. So those I think are probably the biggest challenges, is technology, network, and understanding the tools to get the work done. And culture.
I think it's still the
culture.
the culture, the mindset.
Yeah, definitely that's there. Lisa has her hand up. She's had her hand up for a while. Lisa Weinsberger, who I mentioned before. Let's bring her on and see what her question's all about. So Lisa, if you could you go ahead and tell us what's on your mind?
Hey, yeah, actually what is on my mind is that a lot of people think that live meetings and streamings are enough. And I wonder how we can convince them how to work in real-time collaboration and what the value is there, and break it down in baby steps.
I think same as Robert mentioned before, don't convince them, show them.
Yeah. Convincing
Okay.
is one of those things that takes it's more friction. You really have to kind of show what it's all about, rather than have people conceptually think about what it is. And when I mentioned to Duri about showing what she wanted to do in this space with design sprints, it's the same thing. The more you practice something, the more you're going to learn about it and figure out what you really like to showcase about it, and that will shape how you create your narrative around the stuff that you want to have people do. And Mehmet made a comment that's correct, is that it depends highly on who you want to convince and who you're actually going to be corresponding with.
Yeah.
So Lisa, you also mentioned you have to go. Did you want to add anything else, or do you have to fly?
No, I'm not flying, definitely. I just wanted to say bye and thanks for the great call.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Getting back in with you soon.
Yep. Thanks for
Have a nice
coming.
day. Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
coming.
Bye. Let's see. I think there was one other person, is Raj, who was also in YouTube, and he says, "I'm looking for a mural board for design sprints. Is there any pre-designed one?" And he says he only has access to the GVDS of 1 year ago. So I know that Mural has now published the ones from our last GVDS. They should be in the Mural library. We also have them available, and they should be linked. You know what, Sandy, I should probably link them over on the Global Virtual Design Sprint website now that it's up, and just have that link there. So if people want to get the murals that you created in the last session or the last event, people will have ready access to those. So maybe to answer Raj's question, I'll put it on my to-do list to kind of put some links on the GVDS website for those particular resources if people want to get at them.
You said Mural already has published the
Yeah, Mural.
Mural.
I believe when I checked when they did a follow-up to the GVDS, when we did that follow-up after the event was done, I think they did publish those links to the templates, but I would have to go back and double check.
Okay. The last time I checked, it wasn't there, but I could be just not looking the right place.
Well, we're gonna have a talking to then. we're gonna have to talk to the right people. I think Mark is probably the person that's stonewalling everything, and I'm only kidding because Mark's a really nice guy. But yeah, we'll just have to see who's got what. So anything else? I think we've gotten through all the questions that people have been asking. I don't see anything else. Sandy, what do you think about doing this regularly every Thursday when our schedule permits? Do you think this would be something that would be useful, especially if you brought people into the call to basically get their perspective on what they're talking about?
Of course, I think that's the best way to do it actually, because I think a lot of times when we talk about our topic, it's more towards our own interest. But I would like to make this thing as towards other people's interest more.
Yeah, and maybe generating some questions in advance as part of the registration. So when people sign up, they go, "What are some questions you want Sandy and Robert to address right up front?" That way we can keep it to an hour, but we can have a set of questions that we can prime the conversation with for the first 15 to 20 minutes.
Sounds good.
Now, you'll have to. Now, did you create the graphic for this in Photoshop? Is that where you did your work?
You mean the pink emoji, the
Right, yeah.
pink poop emoji?
Yeah.
I did both. I did it in Illustrator and Photoshop.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the Adobe Suite, so that's fine. I just had a thought that I would use that and just do different things like a sprint runner or anything else. I just thought something different every week, but that's okay. It's fine. I think the way you did it was perfect. So you don't have to do anything else.
It was like, I don't know, 15 minutes done.
That's true. I would like to promote a couple of other things that are going on in the remote space that people should pay attention to. One of them is the Suddenly Remote series that Mural is doing. They are doing fantastic work right now to kind of try to communicate how to basically get up to speed with being remote, especially as an organization or an individual. They have a number of templates that you can use in Mural to basically make that happen. I mean, they put a lot of time and effort into making sure that they've harnessed what they've done in previous years and brought that up to speed for the audiences they want to address this time around. I think they're really well done. Also, the replay that we just did for the remote facilitation best practices with the folks over at Just Mad, and I want to say his name is it not Andre? It's Andrej. How do you say his name?
I thought it's Andre.
Okay.
Andre, I think.
Yeah, from Deep Work. I thought that session went really well. So there's that. There's also someone named Lizette and who's got this. She's doing a weekly thing like we are, and also showcasing a lot of valuable resources. I mean, those are probably my top 3. Are there any particular resources or links or websites that you would recommend, Sandy, for people that are wanting to get up to speed in the remote space?
I always like to recommend a book by MURAL, the Facilitation. Wait, hold on. Ooh,
Best practices in remote facilitation, I think it is, right?
this one right here.
Okay.
I think it's the most comprehensive guide to me. I would actually start from this book and then seek out anything else that you need to know. That would be my recommendation.
Yep.
Because I feel like it's very, very overwhelming when like we always suggest like watch this video, watch this or look at this blog post. But in the end, a lot of the information there are repeated and overlapping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite overwhelming to someone who has no idea what they're doing or have little idea of what they're doing. So I always like to recommend this book because it's almost like if you finish reading this book, you will set yourself in a very good foundation. There may be some specific things that tailor to your type of remote collaboration that may not be in this book. But then after that, then you can seek out answers for those specific questions. But I will start from here.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're good. So
Yeah.
I would say this is our successful live Q&A kickoff of Remotely Interesting. Executed it immensely well. For those of you who are listening still, Danielle, Duri, and Mehmet, thank you very much for tuning in on your spare time on a, what, is it Thursday already? Is it Thursday today?
Yes.
Oh my
I know,
God.
crazy, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming by and watching us. Remember, as always, we recommend here at Remotely Interesting to wash your hands, keep good hygiene, stay safe, and we will see you next Thursday, same time, and let's see what happens then. All
See
right.
you, everyone.
Bye, Sandy. Bye, everybody. See you later.
Bye.